It's wonderful to be back here, and I see a lot of VJ folks here, so welcome to you and welcome to everyone. Let's just take 3 deep breaths together to ground ourselves in the foundation, in the yesod, as Mark was suggesting. So you can keep your eyes open or closed for this one. If you like, you can place a hand on your belly or on your chest, whatever will help you. Take a really full and intentional breath. And then feel the softening of the body as you exhale. Once more. Really filling the lungs and then emptying the lungs completely. And one last breath together. Inhaling and exhaling. I want to share a text today that is relevant throughout the entire Omer. It's about the Sfirat HaOmer, the counting of the Omer, but I think particularly useful, relevant to us in this week of Yesod, when we are trying to establish or reestablish, reconnect with a sense of foundation, our own spiritual foundation, the foundation of our goodness and our potential for goodness. And the text comes from the Netivot Shalom. The link is in the chat, and I'll put it up on the screen right now. The Netivot Shalom, the Slonim Rebbe, is intrigued by the fact that the Torah tells us that we should count for 7 weeks and then says 50 days. So 7 weeks, as we know, is 49 days. And that's in fact what we count, 49 days. We don't count the 50th day. So he wants to know, what does this mean? What is the 50 days all about? He offers 2 ideas, and I really just want to focus on the second idea here. He says the 50 includes not just the 49 days that we start counting the day after the first day of Pesach. It includes the first day of Pesach itself. Why would we include the first day of Pesach in the counting of the Omer? We're told to count from the day after Pesach. So he reminds us that what is Pesach? Pesach is the moment of redemption. And he says, the days of the counting derive their power from the illumination of the first day of Pesach, as is taught by the holy teacher, Rabbi Moshe Elikim Beria of Kuznetz, that the first night of Pesach embodies the aspect of the expansion of the mind, such that the illumination of the Creator is revealed suddenly in a supernatural way. What is he saying? The night of Pesach is a miraculous night. It's a moment of spiritual awakening that is supernatural. And in that, we're going to see in a moment, he says it's not sustainable. But it does exist. We have this sense of being able to see with such clarity the presence of God, the oneness of the world, everything that the Hasidic tradition teaches is included in the expansion of the mind, in the gadlut, the greatness of the mind. And then the expansion of the mind recedes, and the person falls to the smallness of the mind and must gather up the lights of holiness, building them up one by one during the days of counting, and to go up with each and every subsequent day until one enters into the holiday of Shavuot, the day of the giving of the Torah. So what happens? We have this amazing experience of illumination, of spiritual awakening, of understanding, and then it kind of falls apart. Almost the image here, I think, is almost like the Lurianic creation story, where the light shatters and the pieces of the sparks of light are scattered throughout the entire world. So we might have a moment on Pesach of tremendous spiritual insight, but then it goes away because we can't live in that reality. And so each day of the Omer is an opportunity to find one of the lights of holiness and bring it back into our spiritual life so that we get to Shavuot maybe not as complete as we were on the first day of Pesach, despite the fact that the illumination of the first day of Pesach recedes. Nevertheless, the original spark remains to give people the strength so that they may be fortified and move higher up each subsequent level each and every day of the days of the counting until they emerge into the holiday of Shavuot, the day of the giving of our Torah, into the essence of the original illumination. So you may have had an experience, like many of us, where you have some moment of tremendous spiritual insight. Maybe it comes after you've been within the intensity of retreat, and you come out of retreat and you're just feeling in this totally different world. And then you go back to regular life and the things start to fade. Or it might not be a retreat. It might just be one moment where you sense a new understanding of the world and of your spiritual self, but then that goes away. So the work of the Omer, which is really the work that we can do all the time, but these 7 weeks are the dedicated period to do it, is the work of reclaiming those sparks, reclaiming those bits of insight, of recognition of our own innate goodness, of who we can be as people, who we can be when we get to the revelation, the giving of the Torah, and bringing all of that back into the self. And I think of this on a very, very personal level as well. That very often I have had the experience, and maybe you have too, of having a moment of real clarity of who I am, my sense of purpose, my sense of goodness. And then other things happen and my inner critic starts chattering again. And this isn't good enough and that isn't good enough. And I love this image of the Netivot Shalom, who says, you know what? You can go and you can find each spark of your own goodness, recognize it, and bring it back into yourself. And so when the inner critic starts chattering, you can go and reclaim that foundation of who you are. So for our practice today, I invite you to come into your meditation posture. If you're not already there, you could be seated or standing. See that you're seated or standing with a sense of groundedness into the earth, into the seat underneath you. Allowing your spine to grow long, a posture of dignity. Your eyes can close or your gaze can be soft, with your hands resting gently in your lap or alongside your body. Notice if you are holding tension anywhere, if you are clenching your jaw, your hands, any other muscles. And with loving compassion, see if you can direct some breath to that place of tension and release a little bit. I'm going to invite us to gather up some of the sparks of holy light in a very particular way. First, I'll ask you to call to mind a moment when you felt deeply, unconditionally loved. Might be recent, might be from when you were a child, or anywhere in between. Notice what happens in your body as you bring this memory to mind. Just sit with this memory and whatever is arising for you. And then you can gently speak to that belovedness, to your quality of belovedness, your intrinsic belovedness. Come on in. Next, I'll ask you to consider a memory of when someone did something that really helped you, and you were so grateful. A moment in your life where someone helped you and you felt an enormous sense of gratitude. Again, notice what is arising in the body as you bring this memory to mind. What is your embodied experience of gratitude? And now you can look at this capacity for gratitude, for your own ability to open your heart in thankfulness, the holiness of that spark of light. Come on in. Welcome that spark of light into your heart. Another memory of a time when you were generous with someone else. Generous with your time, with your money, with your love. When your generosity was received with gratitude. see yourself, picture yourself in that moment of giving. Noticing once more what is happening in your body as you hold this image in your mind. As you see the holy spark of the light of generosity that's shown from you in that moment. And welcome in that spark of light. Consider a moment now in your life where you felt strong and at your best. Maybe you had accomplished something, achieved something that you had worked hard for. Maybe it was just a moment of waking up and feeling great. Picturing that moment in your mind's eye and feeling it in your body. And inviting that holy spark of light, the light of your strength, solidity, confidence. Welcome it into your heart. Now think about the last time you laughed. Maybe you said something funny. Someone else said something funny. You remembered a joke. Whether you were on your own or with other people laughing together. See what happens in your body and maybe your face when you think about laughing. And take in the holy light of that joy, of that laughter. Of experiencing joy and putting it back out into the world through your laugh. Bring that spark of light into your heart. And finally, consider a time, a memory when your heart was so open in compassion and you were able to give compassion to someone who really needed it. And see that moment of compassion as yet another spark of holiness, another spark of light. Bring that in to join all the other sparks that you have collected over the past few minutes. And of course, there are more, many more. Even when our memory of them fades, or they become clouded and obscured by other voices, those sparks of light are there. So take the next moment to sit in silence, seeing where you feel this light in your body, if you do. Sitting in the collected light of your own holiness. And on your next inhale, you can make your breath a little bit more full, expanding the lungs, and exhale a little bit more complete as you open your eyes or restore your gaze to focus and come back into this space of all of our holy light. Thank you for practicing together today. We'll bring it back to Mark.
Thank you so much, Shuli. And let's all hold that pose for a few more minutes. And we invite those of you who are in mourning or observing a yard site, or for whom it's the custom to join in the mourner's Kaddish, you're invited to do so. As always, if you're not reciting Kaddish, please stay present, support those who are. Thanks to Natalie for sharing the words of the Kaddish on the screen. If you're joining me, you can rise in body or in spirit, and you can unmute at this time. Badash Rabbi. Ramad Rach B'Kei B'Yamite Hayechom L'Chaye Dechol Agala Bizman Kariv Imru Amen.
Amen.
Hey Rabba Mevarach
Maya.
Yitbarach V'Yitavach V'Yitpa'ar V'Yitnaseh Yithadar V'Yitalech Halev,
Shemek
Yitalal, Shemet Yisha, Brichu,
Shalom Kol
Kol
Birchata
Birchata
V'Shirata
V'Shirata,
Mishpechata
B'Shmechata
V'Nechemata Ba'amiran
V'Nechemata,
Be'alma
Ba'amiran
V'Imru
Ba'alma,
Amin
Imru,
Yehi
Amin.
Shalom Rabba B'Shemaya
Yehi Shlama Rabba
Haim Aleinu Be'al
B'Shemaya,
Kol Yisrael
Im Aleinu
V'Yimru
Be'al Kol
Amin
Yisrael, Imru,
Shalom
Amin.
B'Mroma
Oseh
Ya'aseh
Shalom
Shalom
B'Roma,
Aleinu Be'al Kol
Yaseh
Yisrael
Shalom, Inu Yakol Yoshvei Tevel, Imru,
Amen.
Amen. Friends, thanks for joining us so much today. And if you're leaving us now, hope you'll join us tomorrow. Cantor Carrot Spencer Shapiro will be leading us in practice tomorrow on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, which happens to be World Meditation Day, take note, Rabbi Passow, for your Wednesday meditation. It's World Meditation Day. We will meditate with the rest of the world at our usual time, and we'll be led by Rebecca Schisler for that. Thursday, Alison Cohn will be here to lead us, and on Friday, I'll lead our sit to sit together into Shabbat. Looking forward to that very much. So hope you'll join us then. And of course, you're welcome, encouraged to join us. Maybe you'd like to just continue to sit with that beautiful guidance from Rabbi Shuli Passow. You can turn the sound off on your device and just use the support of this group to sit together in silence or join us for a conversation. And if you have a question for Shuli, put it in the chat and I'll keep an eye out, try to work that into our conversation. Thanks to Natalie Rushinoff for holding our tech space today, each of you for being here, and to Rabbi Shuli for a beautiful practice today. Just a reminder that Shuli leads meditation every Wednesday at BJ, 8:45 a.m. Eastern Time. Natalie, maybe you can put the link in again to that for those who'd like to join on Wednesday mornings. Thank you so much, Shuli. That was great. And, there's a lot to talk about. But just in terms of the, I'm interested in kind of exploring a little bit the modality, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word. It's not the modality, but just the particular technique with this particular sit, which I know is always a little bit different. But I was thinking of, as you were like guiding us through these various scenarios, one after another, I was thinking about how Google Photos suggests, or sends you these memories and it curates these moments and think, oh, I remember that. Oh, I remember that. Oh, I remember that. But sometimes it's like, ooh, that one wasn't so that wasn't so good, or no one looked very good in that picture. Um, and so I found myself with some of the ones that you were suggesting, pretty easy to connect with and call something up. And others, sometimes I was like, can't can't come up with that at the moment. Maybe that's there. But I wanted to, especially the first one I wanted to focus on, which was a memory or a sense of being unconditionally loved, right? Which we often will bring up in Jewish mindfulness meditation. And I wanted to ask you, because I just always think, well, what if we didn't have that as a kid? And what if we had never really experienced that? And I think it would be helpful to talk about how is it possible to imagine what it feels like to receive unconditional love if one feels like maybe that hasn't been their experience in their real life.
That is a really wonderful question, Mark, and you're right. And I would say maybe I should have acknowledged that that may not have been an experience that everyone has. I
But
once let,
I don't think it means that we shouldn't be invited. But I think there's a,
yeah,
like what to do in that moment. Or even
yeah,
if you can't, they like, yeah, I have had that, but I'm not feeling it right now.
yeah, yeah. So I think that I once led a meditation at our BJ's church partner, SPSA, which was about God loving us and feeling God's love. And that is not always an idea that we think about. I think many of us think of that as a very Christian idea. And like, in fact, the the word for unconditional love, agape, that is a very Christian, that is a Christian concept. But of course, we do have that that image in our liturgy, Ahava Rabbah, and so, and many of us, I would venture to guess that when many of us think of being loved, we probably are looking for a memory of a person who has loved us. But I wonder if that might be an avenue to explore if the person is not coming up so readily, if an image or a memory of a human is not coming up so readily, is to turn to a sense, which I truly believe, of God's unconditional love for us.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe touch a moment of feeling close to God or close to whatever you experience as divinity. That might be a way to access that. On a kind of different direction, I would also say many people feel unconditionally loved by their pets, and that is unconditional. I mean, if you have a dog, right, like dogs are, famously love their owners.
That's the best
So,
advertisement I've ever heard for having a canine.
and so that could also be a direction. It doesn't have to be a human.
Yeah. I'm thinking, first of all, I just did that. When we led our service this past Shabbat and I had Ahava Rabbah, I did exactly what you did. I invited people to experience that. So I'm thinking another way maybe I'm thinking about it is, what would it be like? What do you imagine to engage the imagination? Like some of us may not have, I mean, probably if you really work, you can find some situation, right? A friend, or like you said, like your dog or something. Um, but just kind of act as if, what would it be like to
Mhm.
imagine what it's like, and to explore the defenses that come up also that block it, right? And then to be loving towards those defenses,
Mhm.
which circles me around to, you started with that. And Holly asked earlier, like, can you list the qualities, you know, check off, and I don't know if you have that handy, if you wrote these out in terms of whether you were like kind of, riffing here, but whether you had a sequence. But to start with that one made me think about, in terms of the teaching that you brought from the Nativot Shalom about this kind of drip irrigation system through the Omer, right? Drip, 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 because we can't handle the flood, so like little at a time and building it up. But it all starts with Chesed, with the week of Chesed, which is we can think about as a week. We start with that. We start with love,
Right, right.
right? And that, it doesn't end at the end of, well, that week's over. The love week is over. And then we move on to, to Gevurah and boundaries and judgment. No, the chesed is still coming, right? We're just adding to it the gevura. So the chesed is still coming, the whole Omer, right? And in a way, like based on like your teaching today, like that the Netivot Shalom is saying, like, we just get a giant love bomb on Pesach on day
Mhm.
one. And
Yeah,
then you're like, whoa, like I can't handle that. They say, all right, let's just do it a little at a time here until we build back up, and then we'll get there. Anyway, I love that, that Nativo Shalom teaching is so great.
beautiful. Yeah, I love your image of the metaphor of the drip irrigation.
Hmm.
I think that's really right. I did intentionally begin with the being loved,
Hmm.
um, and then it was more of, let's see what is arising. But I do think that the love is the starting point, which is essentially what he's saying, that a moment of redemption, physical redemption, spiritual redemption, like that is a moment of being loved. Like that doesn't, and then the steps of the cultivation that happens over the course of the Omer or over the course of anyone's spiritual journey, I think the yesod, the foundation of it, is a belief in our worthiness, and tapping into that experience or sensation of being loved. And maybe it's not unconditional, maybe it's just a moment of being loved,
Right.
period. That's how we can continue to come back to our sense of worthiness, because from there we do our spiritual work. That's we're worthy of having more sparks of light be opened up to us, and to collect them and to become whole again.
Yeah. But one of the other things I really want to appreciate about what you did was, you had that vulnerability where you shared how, yes, we have these moments when we have this, we might touch into a sense of our innate, I don't know how you put it exactly, but whatever, that we're feeling okay about ourselves, right? And then insecurities and the inner critic
Critic.
comes back, right? We might, and then, and it's gone. And I think what I want to lift up from your teaching and from the Netivot Shalom and from the connection to the Isaac Luria myth of the shattering of the vessels and the which is where we get the phrase tikkun olam from. But basically, that inherent in Jewish spirituality is that brokenness and shattering and the need for drip irrigation and human fallibility is baked into it, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And maybe starting with, let's start with love, because we know we're going to fall, and we know we're going to go off course. We know we're going to stray from intention, and we know we're not going to be able to maintain this perfectly. It's just kind of a spirituality of imperfection that I think really came through in this teaching and practice today. I want to appreciate that.
Thank you, Mark. I think that's really right. The spirituality of imperfection. That is the Kabbalistic understanding of the world and of the human as as each human is, as we are each our own world.
One more thing here from Harris, who wondered, and I think reflection question, I wonder whether the experience of feeling unconditional love is a precondition for expressing unconditional love.
Mm.
I don't know. I want to throw that one to you, because that is kind of like how the tradition kind of sets it up liturgically anyway, that we receive love and then we express love.
Mhm.
Like we have Ahava Rabbah, then we have Shema, and then we have the Ahavta, loving God by loving God's creation.
Mhm.
And
I
you
mean,
brought that in. You like, among the photos that you were bringing up, or those moments of being able to be compassionate and loving towards others, right?
yeah. So there's probably research on this that I just don't know about how newborn babies interact with their immediate caregivers. I want to say that we actually start with unconditional love, the capacity for unconditional love,
Mm.
and then if we have too many negative experiences, we start to learn to withhold that, or to draw more walls or more boundaries. Um, but but I would have to see if there's like psychological research into, does the human brain actually work that way. But I would like to believe that as babies, at least, we don't need anything to give the unconditional love to our caregivers.
Yeah. Well, if there's no other reason to take a moment in the course of the day just to sit and breathe and be present, I think that, having a daily opportunity just for a moment at least to imagine and receive unconditional love, so that the rest of the day, hopefully some of that will seep out through us into the world, is, it's good enough. Good enough. All right, Shuli. Thank you for putting us on a good foundation to start the week of Yesod. It was really it was a beautiful practice this
Thank
year.
you.
Lots of appreciation I see in the chat, and
Thank you, everyone. It's always really a privilege to be here. Thank you.
And,
And thank you, Mark, for all you do to create this space.
thanks, Shuli. Okay, thanks to Natalie. Thanks to everyone for being here. I'll see you tomorrow with Carrot Spencer Shapiro, everyone. So be well and safe until then. Many blessings.